Today I'm going to be showing you how to make the Implicit Arches scarf. This is an easy to make scarf that can be put together in a variety of configurations to suit whatever project you'd like to make. I hope you'll pick up your crochet hook and yarn and come along with me and learn how to make this scarf. If you like this kind of content, I hope you will check out some of my other tutorials and that you will like or subscribe. The Implicit Arches scarf is crocheted with 3 colors of yarn. The pattern suggests a DK or number 3 weight yarn. I'm going to be using these 3 colors from Shelled Ridge Yarns, made in Canada. And there is a 4th color, and the reason for that is I'm going to be actually using 2 number 1 weight yarns or fingering weights held together. It gives it kind of a tweedy effect. And also it allows me to stretch out some of my specialty yarns by using something less expensive or something that I already have on hand. So just to sum up, you'll need 3 colors of DK yarn or fingering weight yarn holding 2 strands together. I'm also using a number 4 crochet hook for this pattern. So I'm going to wind these skeins into cakes and I will be right back. So I've got my yarns all caked up here. Balls would work fine too. I would suggest putting them in a bowl or something so they don't roll around. Okay, so to get started, we're going to make a starting loop. If you're brand new to crochet, just think about it as a letter E. So make a letter E out of your yarn. Put your hook through the back. Grab onto that yarn and take it through the loop like that. So now we have a starting loop. The Implicit Arches scarf is a simple 2-row repeat. We're going to start with a chain foundation row. And we're going to chain 11. Keep it fairly loose. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. If you have trouble keeping your chains loose enough, just go up to a bigger hook size, maybe a 5mm for your starting chain, and then switch back. If you're following along on the pattern, we're now going to do row 1, and we're going to start single crochets in the second chain from the hook. So not the first V, but the second one. And you can put your hook in on the top of that V, or you can flip it around to the back and find the little row of bumps on the back. I prefer doing it that way because it gives a little neater finish. But either one will work just fine. So I'm going to put my hook underneath that bump, yarn over, pull it back, yarn over, pull through 2. That's your single crochet. If you can single crochet, you can make this scarf. It looks far more complicated than it is. We're going to put a second single crochet in that same one. So 2 single crochets in the second chain from the hook, and then single crochet the rest of the way across. It's a bit fiddly to get your hook through those back bumps, but I think it's worth it, and I'll show you why in a moment. Through the bump, just that bump, not any other threads. Yarn over, pull 1 through, pull through 2. Again, just a single crochet. Okay, and this is the 9th bump on the back after the 2 single crochets in the first one. So I should have 11 single crochets. So let's have a look. The loop on the hook doesn't count, so we start with this one next to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and the 11th one is kind of curled around the edge because we did 2 in that first stitch and it wraps around. To start row 2, I'm going to step up by chaining 1, so yarn over, pull through the loop, and turn. For row 2, I'm going to skip the first single crochet and work in the second one. So if you're looking at the top of your work, the first V is the chain 1 that we just did to step up. The second V is the first single crochet, and the third V is the second single crochet. I'm going to be working in the second single crochet, skipping the first one, and working 1 single crochet. And I will work 1 single crochet across. So all together at the end of this row, I should have 10 single crochets. So if I count the V's, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. That's the end of row 2. Chain 1, turn. For row 3, I'm going to do 2 single crochets in this first single crochet. And 1 in each of the next 9. So at the end of this row, because I did 2 in the first one, I will have 11 single crochets. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. It's going to alternate between 10 and 11, and that's what gives us the angled edge to the scarf. Row 4. I'm going to chain 1 and turn to get to row 4, and I'm going to skip the first single crochet in the second single crochet, and across for 10 single crochets in this row. Chain 1, turn. From here on out, I'm just going to repeat those last 2 rows, rows 3 and 4. So on the downward slant, or the row 3 side, I'm going to do 2 single crochets in the first single crochet and 1 in each of the rest. Chain 1 and turn. On the upward slant, I'm going to skip that first single crochet and work into the second one and following ones across for 10 single crochets. So those 2 rows work as a pair. In row 3, you do 2 single crochets in the first single crochet, and in row 4 you skip the first single crochet, and that gives you this slanted edge to your scarf. So now you know everything you need to know to make the Implicit Arches scarf. Just to go back to what I said at the beginning about working in the back loops, you'll see that this bottom edge has a nice row of V's along it, and that's what happens when you work in those back loops. So before we know it, we've finished the first stripe of the Implicit Arches scarf. 6 rows makes up a stripe, and you can kind of see here that the pairs of rows kind of make a ridge. So I've got 1, 2, 3 pairs of rows. That makes my 6 rows in total. And I'm going to switch colors here. So I've stopped before making my turning chain and cut the blue yarn. And I'm going to add my color B, which is my purple yarn. And I'm going to add it in the last stitch of the row, which is the chain 1 turning chain. And that way you get a nice even change of color without it bleeding into the next row. So always change your color of yarn in your last pull through of your previous row. Whether it's a single or double crochet, the last loop that you pull through should be in the new color, because that will make the first stitch of your next row. If that doesn't make a lot of sense to you right now, just trust me. It will make sense as you go along. I'm going to work in these 2 cut ends as I go, so I don't have to do them later on. And again, we're going back to the row 3, 4 repeat. Row 3 with the 2 single crochets in the first single crochet and 1 in the rest. So as I mentioned, I'm just making sure that I catch those 2 cut ends inside of my stitch as I go. That's pretty purple, isn't it? Chain 1 and turn, and row 4, skipping the first single crochet in the rest. I'm going to repeat those 2 rows for a total of another 6 to make the second stripe in the scarf. Now the purple stripe is finished. I'm going to cut that yarn and add my color my color C, which is the pink sort of mauvey color here. And like I did last time, I'm going to join it in that turning chain, which is my last stitch in the last row. Turn around and begin my next set of 6 rows with 2 single crochets in the first stitch. If you're having trouble counting the number of rows, which it can be a bit tricky with using 2 threads together like this, makes it a little harder to see, you could use a stitch counter, which is a little device that you turn after each row to keep track of your rows, or a digital row counter, or even something simple like a bucket with 6 pens in it, and each time you finish a row you put a pen in the bucket, and when you've run out, then you know you've done 6 rows. There's different ways, whatever works for you. So I finished my pink stripe, the 3rd one, and I'm switching back to blue again, so color A, and we'll just continue that sequence of 3 colors until the scarf is as long as I would like it to be. A couple of other things that you could think about at this point It's okay if it's curling up a bit on the sides, but if you find it's curling up quite a lot, especially on the downward side where you've been skipping the first single crochet, it could be that your turning chain is just a little bit too tight, so try loosening that up a bit. If you find that the whole thing is more dense than you'd like it to be and you'd like it to be looser, you could go back and start over and use a larger hook if you want. That's another change that you could make, but I'm happy with this. And when I do the second strip to put them face to face, I think it'll look quite nice. I finished the first strip for the scarf. If you're wondering, mine is 75 inches long, but you can make it any length that suits you. I also finished the second strip, and now you can see how the two pieces will join together to make a neat offset chevron effect. The next task is to create a diamond shape to close in the end of the scarf. So that's what we're going to be doing now. To create the diamond, we have to switch the direction of our angle on the top of the scarf. So it's similar to what we were doing before with a bit of a twist. On the first row, which is the downward slope, so I'm working from the top or the peak of this strip of the scarf, I'm going to put one single crochet in the second single crochet and in the rest of them across. So there will be 10 single crochets on this row. Chain one and turn. On this side, going uphill again, I'm going to do 2 single crochets in the first single crochet and 9 more to follow for a total of 11. So 1, 2 in the first one, and then 9 more. Chain and turn, and we'll repeat those 2 rows for a total of 10 rows, skipping the first single crochet in the first row and doing 2 in the first single crochet in the second row. So the 10 rows are complete to make a diamond on the top of the scarf. I'm going to clip the yarn and pull it through to secure it. And now when we put the 2 pieces or the first 2 strips of the scarf together, you can see how it closes it up at the top and down at the bottom. The pointed end is made by the 2 strips fitting together where we started, like that. Now we're going to move on to joining these 2 strips together. Very exciting. And you can do that just with a simple whip stitch, and I'll demonstrate that on this top part of the scarf here by the diamond. I'm going to go through some of the stitches to anchor my yarn. And then I'm just going to do a simple over and over whip stitch, going from one piece to the next, around and around, holding them so that they don't buckle, they stay nice and flat. And stitching across. Doesn't matter exactly where you put the stitches, as long as it comes out flat and even. And when you use the same color like this, it just disappears. So here I am coming down to the bottom of the scarf with my whip stitching. If you were wondering why it's called the Implicit Arches scarf, it's just because I enjoy naming my patterns after Canadian butterflies and moths. And the Implicit Arches moth has kind of a zigzaggy chevron pattern on its wings. And I just think that moths and butterflies are amazing and unique and special. Just like a handmade item that you wear yourself or give to somebody as a gift. Just think it kind of goes together. So that's what it's named after, the Implicit Arches moth. I'm just going to leave this with 2 strips sewn together to make kind of a skinny scarf. Those are on trend right now. Or I guess it could be a child's scarf, especially if you put pom-poms on the end. It'd make a really nice little girl's scarf. But you could do 4 strips together for a cozier scarf, 6 or 8 strips for more of a blanket scarf. And this pattern is so versatile that you could make it into an afghan or a table runner or even a bedspread, just using the same principles. It's very flexible that way. So here's the scarf all finished. I opted for tassels on the end. I think that works well with just a 2-strip configuration, but if you were doing 4 or 6 or 8, you could leave them off, maybe put some fringes on, whatever you like. As I said, it's a very flexible and versatile project. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you will come back for more of my tutorials and original designs. Thanks for watching.